Welcome to Jollof and Fiction, home of African literature and stories, the kind that warm your heart like a fresh pot of jollof. Today, you're tuning into a recorded session of our online book discussion, so sit back, relax, and join the conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad that you all have taken such a liking to this book. And yeah, the audience for this book were Africans, Ghanaians and Africans. I'm always pleased when other Africans, especially West Africans, can identify or see themselves in the book. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here. Also to say that the Nigerian version of Someone Birthed Unbroken comes out next month from Masobe. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much. We're excited to have you too. All right then. Okay, so I'd read about you before now, like the day I actually got to read your book, and I realized you're one of many things. You're a poet and a song artist. I would like to know, how was it for you transitioning from one form of art to another, or was it all just everything at once? How was it for you, your face? Because I often say that poets are good at anything they lay their hands to do, but how was it for you? Just give us a bit of thoughts. Share your thoughts with us as your process, how it was for you. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I think saying that poets are good at everything they touch is a little bit too generous. But I wouldn't call it a transitioning, as it is more of a sectioning. I think a lot of artists, actually, especially a lot of artists in Africa, we are forced to be multi-hyphenates, or we are forced to be multiple operating in our ways. But I think for me, everything I do starts with writing. So it's easier to look at writing as the root of everything I do. I paint as well, but like my ideas for painting starts with text. I always say that, like, inside of my head, most of my ideas starts as a dialogue. It's sound. It's not necessarily text that I see, but it's always like sound. It's a dialogue of text and that I see. So I think that's why I'm able to do all of these kind of things, because I see all of it linked to my writing or to my poetry. And it enables me to move through all of the versions of me that exist as an artist. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you. About the book, the structure of the book. At first, when I saw the list of characters and how you drew up more like something like a tree, I think, of how they were connected, I basically thought it was a full story. I didn't know there were short stories of interconnected lives, separate lives. And the only other author I've seen do this is the author of Dreams and Assorted Nightmare, Abubakar Ibrahim. I don't know if you've heard of him or read any of his book. My next question is about the structure of the book. What drew you to use an interconnected structure for the book, where characters' lives ripples into each other? Was it a deliberate way of showing how people in a community are shaped by each other's choices, failures, and pain? Would love to hear your thinking behind that narrative decision.
Okay. Thanks for this question. So there's a thing that we say here in Accra, which is that Accra is small. Like, so many people living in Accra like to say Accra is small. And we say that because you can go to a wedding of a friend and meet someone that is so unlikely that you would meet there. Like, one way or the other, you are always running into people that you don't expect to know the other people that you've met or that you are there with. And it just feels like Accra is just one small town that everybody seems to know someone. And I really wanted to reflect that in the writing of this book. So yes, I would say it was a very deliberate choice. In fact, when I was writing this book, I didn't think of it in terms of literature categorization. I didn't think of it like a short story collection or a novel. I thought of it as a world. And so if I'm portraying this world, how can I connect the people together without it feeling like, I didn't want it to be too technical, too mechanical, like this is a short story collection. In fact, when the book was being promoted, before the book was out in the world, I was trying to convince my publisher to not promote it as a short story collection or a novel, but to kind of leave that categorization out, because I wanted people to see what I was doing without having the label of it's a short story collection on it. But of course, the publishing world is also a marketing world, and they needed to place those labels on it to sell. But yeah, like it was a very deliberate intention to build that narrative structure in that way.
Yeah, and from what I realized, it actually took a lot, because I think there are times where you try that and it seems very forced, but it flowed very well spontaneously into the next story, so much so you are rooting for everybody, something of that sort. Thank you very much. It was quite beautiful.
Yeah.
The next question is the subject of motherhood, and it's portrayed very sacred and suffocating in some stories, like I earlier mentioned. What was your intention? What did you want to explore or challenge about African motherhood? Because in some stories, you notice that mothers are portrayed as being the stronghold of the family. In another context, they are seen as too much. I don't know if you get my point. Like too much. In another context, they are seen as all loving. What was your intention? Did you seek to explore anything about African mother or challenge the standard already? What was on your mind when you employed that theme?
Yeah, I guess for me, I thought this was a very interesting question, because I've received different questions, and I'm not quite sure if anybody has particularly honed in on motherhood. But I think what I was trying to do was I wanted to show that motherhood isn't an automatic superpower. It's not something that the minute you have a child, you suddenly come equipped with this role inbuilt, and that it's a new and unfamiliar role every time, even for women who are raised around it. In many African contexts, motherhood is framed as all sacred and all-knowing, but I was more interested in its complexity. The ways that motherhood can also be overwhelming, can also be disorienting. And I didn't want to romanticize it as something instinctively conquered. I wanted to show that motherhood reveals rather than perfects us. So I think that's kind of like my goal with this book. Yeah.
I believe it worked quite well. And in some instances, I think a lot of us saw our mothers. It was quite relatable. So point like, oh yeah, my mom's like this, and then another part like, okay. I think it's the part where she said, I love my mom, but I don't like her. I think a lot of young Africans have been at that point where they love their mom and all, but somehow they just
Yeah. Feel that.
Oh, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sorry about that. Okay. Also, and the next thing I would like to consider is the subject of spirituality and suffering. And I think it's quite common for writers to employ elements of culture, their most immediate element of culture, into writing. And then I noticed the subject of spirituality, God, and it was more like a recurring theme. And what role does spirituality or religion play in your life and in your writing as well? Because I wouldn't say it was a strong force, but it was just there in each of the stories. You could tell there was faith somewhere, there was hope, there was faith in God. So does your spirituality, your religion, does in any way influence your writing or who you are as a person?
Yeah. So I'm Christian, and my faith is deeply relational. I believe in a God who welcomes fragile emotions. I believe in a God who invites our questions. and even our anger as part of building intimacy with him. In my personal life, I find comfort in that relationship with God. So yes, like in my life, spirituality plays a big role. However, in my writing, and particularly for this book, I was focusing on characters who haven't yet accessed that kind of dialogue. Characters who are hurting, who are doubting, or who are spiritually silent. And I wanted to reflect the reality of distance and longing, because that's where many people are. Many people are questioning, many people are doubting, but there's also always like a glimmer of hope. I wanted to kind of reflect that in my writing.
Wow. Okay, that's quite insightful. I think we're almost reaching the end of politics and storytelling. Let's consider that a bit. In the first story, God or whatever, he subtly but powerfully highlights political and economic frustration, a reality many African countries share. With decades of failed leadership, many young people now dream of living and not fixing home. So as writers, it often feels like we are just documenting the decay. So what role do you think African storytellers can realistically play in shifting this narrative or inspiring change? Because obviously, when I read that, but I've not really read the story that is centered in Ghana, sort of. But when I read it, I was like, in the end, all African countries have something in common, which is poor leadership, in a sense, poor leadership. And we've been shouting hope so much so that it's tiring to hear. And then it seems as though all we are doing is just writing about the things that are wrong, things that are going bad, stuff like that. And it's very I think an average young person in Nigeria wants to leave the country. Do you understand? So I'm thinking, what can we do? What do you think, what role does literature have to play in everything, what's going on currently in the country?
Yeah, I thought this was a very important question, and as I was poring over it, I felt a little bit of conflict. Because yes, I think that we document decay, and I think it's important that we document decay. Nobody benefits if we do not document the truth. But I also think that we write so that something might live. We are custodians of memory as writers, as storytellers. But we are also architects of imagination. We are architects of better futures. And in the same way that we have a role and we have a duty to name the decay, to document it, to refuse to let it pass unexamined, I think we also have the power to reimagine. We also have the role of naming what can heal as well. Our work doesn't have to be either despair or inspiration. It can be both. And I think that's where literature plays that part. And in fiction alone, I think that African writers are doing so much. Not only are we doing literary fiction, but we're also doing Afrofuture, fantasy, and we need those. We need those to escape somewhere. But we also need literature that feels very real, that we may not have seen, but it's a future that we think that it's possible. So I think as storytellers, we play multiple roles. We have a duty to document the decay, but we also have a duty to reimagine what a world that doesn't have the decay can look like.
Wow, that's powerful. Because my approach to this before now was, I think there's a quote by the famous Fela Kuti where he said, "Good music should make you think about the good life, and if you're not living the good life, good music should make you annoyed for not living the good life." And I think that's been my approach to art. Art should make you think about the good life. But there is just so much you can hope for. There's just a stretch of how long you can hope for. Do you get? And over time, it gets tiring, it gets wearisome. Like, we've been promised change for a long time. And people who fought for this, they're either imprisoned or killed. Wole Soyinka, the rest of them. And somehow, it's almost tempting to think that there's nothing we can do, actually. But I think from what you shared now, I think what you said is true. We should also reimagine the future we want. Write not just documenting decay, but also picturing the future we want to live in. I think that also helps our mind in a way, because if there's so much decay, that's all we are seeing, and we just need someone who would write what can be possible. So thank you
Exactly.
very much.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome.
Now, coming to the characters, were there characters you found difficult to let go after writing? Characters that stayed with you or were like more personal, like this is me in this story. I know it might sound a bit personal, but then we just want to know. I mean, it would help if you just tell us, okay, oh, this particular character, I couldn't let go of this, or this one reminded me of myself. Was there any character like that?
I don't know if letting go is the same as I see myself in them. But I guess the story that took a while to write was The Silence, the one about the female friendships. And I think it's because I've experienced that in my life. I have friendships that have broken off. I think there's a lot of literature about romantic relationship breakups, but there aren't a lot of literature documenting what it feels like to lose friends. And that was like a story that took a while to complete because it involved looking at my life, looking at my past relationships and siphoning off of it for it. So yeah, that was one of the stories that was kind of hard to get through. Yeah.
I think maybe after now I'll just give a club members a chance to just tell us which story stayed with them, which character made them think of themselves. Maybe after we're done with this.
Yeah.
And I think the next one is the queer story, John and Quay. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, or Quessy. I'm not quite sure. Now we understand how the African culture is with queerness, and especially in the culture that often attacks or silences queer experiences. What was it like for you navigating that storyline? Did you have any reservations or internal battles while writing it, knowing how it might be received? What thoughts did you have to confront or overcome to put in on the page, honestly?
Okay, so I did have some internal battles, but they weren't towards the direction of how it may be received. And I think when I look back at it now, I'm glad. To be very honest, when I'm writing, I don't think of the audience. Perhaps after it has been written, when I'm interacting with the publisher or with readers, that's when I start thinking of the audience. But when I was writing, I wasn't thinking of the audience. I was thinking about how am I staying true to the story? Because it's a queer story. I am not queer. And how am I honoring it in such a way that I'm not disrespectful to people? I'm honoring people's realities. And I'm writing it in such a way that will also not put people off from engaging with the work.
Yeah, that can be very true. Yeah.
And yeah, so I thought of it more in the broader sense of I don't want to repel people. I want to invite people to have a conversation. And yeah, that was one of the stories that also took like several rewrites, took quite some time to get it right. I'm very happy with how it ended, but that's not the initial way in which the story flowed, and it just took a lot of back and forth before I was able to get that story to that form. So I think that was where the internal battle was making sure that I was honoring the story, honoring the reason why I chose to write that story and how I wanted it to be portrayed. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. I can't. I've thought of this before, because considering how we in this part of Africa generally, the way we fight this, and so I often think it's a bold step for authors when they come out and write stuff about that, then they open. So I presume you might have had some kind of internal conflict putting it down, considering that you also identified as a Christian.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah. I mean, so I had.
Go on, you can speak.
Yeah. So like I said, when I was writing it, I didn't think of the audience in that way. I was just trying to stay true to the story. and for it to be an invitation. Of course, the reality of the book being published, I don't know if you guys, but the reality of the book is that because there's a work, right, and that's exactly the kind of thing I'm hoping to break. Like, I want people to take the book and want to have a conversation. And so far, most of the readers of the book have been young people. And by young people, I'll say maybe people between the ages of 18 to 40. And I want more 50 and 60-year-olds. We've been doing these reading parties in Accra. And a lot of the young people reading are saying, I wish my mother could read this book. I wish my father could read this book. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I was writing the book, I wasn't thinking about parents at all. But I think it's a great book for parents to read, to see how their young adults and their children are interfacing with the world. And I think this particular queer story is a story that anybody would want to read, or at least, yes, anybody would want to read, and it is capable of starting a conversation without offending any sensibilities. So yeah, I think that's it with the story.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And lastly, I think this is the last question for this segment. Defining brokenness. What's your idea of brokenness? Are we all broken, or just born into a broken world? Is that what breaks us? The fact that we are born into a broken world, or we are all just born broken? What's your take on that?
I think the answer is both. We're born broken and we are born into a broken world. I'm going to have to borrow from the Bible here, for all have sinned.
Okay.
But yeah, I think my idea of brokenness in terms of this book was not necessarily to portray something irredeemable. It's not like something is like, like it's a cracked egg and nothing can be done out of it, but to portray the sense of we all have something that we all have our we all have these imperfected lives, and we are trying to navigate our lives together. And there's no villain, or neither is there no good person. In our own lives, sometimes we are villains to ourselves, and in other lives, we are villains to other people. In the same way, in our own lives, sometimes we are good to ourselves, and in other people's lives, we are the good ones. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say, that it's very hard to say that, one person is entirely bad, or to say that one person is entirely good. But the reality is that we are all broken in some ways.
This brings to mind the concept of absolutism you shared in one of the stories.
Yes, exactly.
I think I never really understood that concept until you explained it there in that story. I referenced Idi Amin, how we only perceive him as being a terrorist or somewhat, but he probably also had a lover who he was kind to. And that struck me because he made me see things in layers. You get this, how we perceive someone, but forget that he probably also had a daughter that called him father and looked towards having him come home and stuff like that. So, like I said, the book was just so powerful. I don't know if you actually realize the depth of the book itself, because I even this second time I read it, I was telling my club members that I was studying the book. Literally, I studied the book because it was so much, and it came at the time where I had so many questions, and then somehow I read some stories and I felt seen. Like, okay, someone else, someone in Ghana knows what I'm going through here, stuff like that. And I think that's the beauty of art, when someone from another world, someone from another region or something like that could create something you can connect to, and you don't even know this person. So much so I had to go searching for you on Google. That was how intense it was.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Thank you. So I don't know if my club members have anything to say or ask you before I throw a general question to them, and then you get to hear their thoughts on some things. So does anyone have anything to ask? Just right by raise of hand. Okay, Olivia, one. Okay, just Olivia and Joanne. So Olivia first, then Joanne second. Mokud's third. Okay, so Blessing fourth. Okay, numbers are increasing. It's fine. Olivia first. Briefly, just ask your question, and I think Asante will be supposed to answer. Thank you. All right, we have Divine now. Olivia, go first. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Asantewa again. Okay, so I'm actually trying to be calm. All right, so like I said earlier, the book was really a lot for me, and it spoke to me in different ways. And I just wanted to know something, like, is this book a product of like different people's lives you got to experience? Because at some point it felt like you understood everybody in the story. You know, you understood Opoku, you understood Boatema, you understood Diana. I mean, everybody, like, nobody was actually a villain. Everybody was existing in their own world with their own rights and kind of like their own wrongs. So, like, I just wanted to know, first of all, is this like, does this come from a place of experience of what you've seen from other people's lives? Or is it more like, okay, I wouldn't say something personal because I don't know if one person can actually experience all that in one person. And then also, what would you have to say about Diana and Victoria? Because it left me conflicted. And then when I read what you said about absolutism, it made me question Diana's attitude towards Victoria when she told her about how she felt, and eventually she committed suicide. I mean, Diana never really understood why Victoria would go on to take her life, and I really did understand Victoria because I think I saw myself like that some years back. But then she talked about it like it was something disgusting, something that shouldn't have been. But meanwhile, it was actually a cry for help. The day she became vulnerable, she spoke to her, and she didn't really get any help from her. So listening to her talk about her like that, I want to know, like, is that you also trying to show us how someone can be so loving? Because she was so loving to Amafoa, and then why can't she show that same love to Victoria? Why didn't Victoria get to experience that same love for her? So is this you also trying to show that, you know, someone can actually be loving but not also get it right all the time? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's one of the more common questions that I get about this book a lot. And I guess I will take it as a compliment. But yeah, it would be, I have friends who have read the book and can't, I think almost everybody who has read the book can see a bit of themselves in the book. Even if it's not fully, there is a bit of themselves in it. And I think that was really what I wanted to capture. One of the things I, as a writer, particularly from Ghana, is trying to do is I want to see more books that look like me. I want to see more books that are documenting my life. I want to see more, or the lives of Ghanaians or Africans. I can take, and I feel like contemporary Ghanaian writers aren't doing a lot of that. We don't see a lot of stories like that, and I think it's very relevant for my generation. And so I did do a lot of research. I always say, I don't know about other writers, but I did a lot of research. Of course, I have friends and family, and I know people, and of course, there are people that I had the privilege of getting secondhand experience from. But I also did reach out on the internet, and I held several interviews, asking people different questions about different things. I remember when I was working on the Silence, and I wanted to, I think Silence and Footnote, and I wanted to kind of get varied perspectives of any form of sexual harassment. I interviewed maybe like 27 women from all over Africa. I put out a call on Twitter maybe in 17 or 2018, I think. And I got 27 people who said they were interested in doing the interviews. And the stories were so vast and so different. The reality of it is I ended up putting maybe 5% of the interviews into the book itself. But like having access to so many people's perspectives, it helps enriching the storytelling. I don't know if that makes sense. And that's why you feel the way you feel about the stories. Because I had this vast array of information or of knowledge to tap into. But yes, I also think that's, like I mentioned before, the reality of our human existence is that even when we are well-meaning, sometimes we are still hurting other people. Can't always get it right. So yeah, I really wanted to use this book to show the duality of our existence.
Thank you so much, Asantewa. Olivia, I think the question has been answered. Okay, all right. I think who else raised their hands after Olivia? That was Joanne. Was it Joanne or Mokut? So Joanne, you'd speak. Mokut, then Blessing.
Okay. Hi.
So Joanne, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So, thank you for being with us today, Asantewa. I just want to ask, because like the silent story actually resonated with me a lot, because they had the two women, Diana and Ama, or something like that, had a very unique friendship, right? And I saw it as a mirror of my own friendship in a lot of ways. So I want to ask you if you think that why you think friendships just go down the drain like that. Like, because sometimes even after I have like shared memories with these people, like after that we cannot ever, let's not ever leave each other, right? Like you're going to remain friends forever, and then one day I'm just like, because of this thing, I cannot be friends with you again. So like one bad thing gets like, so all the good things that we've had together, something like that. So, and then there's these things Nigerians like to say. They're like, maybe they want to say they cannot care less or something, and they're like, maybe you did do me now. Like, you know, right? No matter what you guys have shared, they're just like, that's not even what I'm thinking about. I have to think about my life, how to make money and stuff. And after all these years, there's nothing we're even gaining from each other. Do you think that, like, why is it like that? What do you think personally? Because I can't even seem to wrap my head around why people are lovers 1 minute and then the next they just forget everything they have shared, you know, and it goes down the drain.
Yeah. Thanks, John, for this question. I don't know if I have a perfect answer or an answer even, but I think one of the reasons why it's like that, particularly with women friendships, is that women are socialized to prioritize romantic relationships more than we prioritize women friendships, which is that, like, I don't know if you've experienced this before, but I have seen it several times, that you will be best friends, like you'll be close friends with several women, and the minute they get into a relationship, it's like suddenly they can't multitask. They have no time. They don't invest into their friendships as before. And I think because that we don't prioritize, we only think in terms of, okay, I will then begin to start my own family, and then that becomes my priority. And I'm not to say that starting your own family isn't important. I absolutely think that is also important. But I think one of the first things that women are willing or allow to deteriorate is always like their women friendships. And yeah, sometimes the reality is that people are no longer willing to do the work to try and build these relationships up. We don't have the language. I also think that's one of the things. We don't have the language. You know, like for romantic relationships, breakups are very obvious. Like, yes, we've broken up, but we don't have that for friendships. Like, when we are not talking, we are not talking. We are not saying we've broken up. It's just like we've stopped talking, or we are no longer as close as we used to. Maybe we say hi to each other, but something has obviously happened. And I think we also don't have the language for navigating relationships that have gone sour in female friendships or in platonic relationships. I don't know about the guys if you experience this, but if you do, please feel free to share. But particularly for women relationships, we don't really have the language to navigate platonic relationships. So that also contributes to not being able to build back relationships when they deteriorate. Because I think that you always have issues in relationships, whether it's platonic or familial or romantic. You always have issues, but when it's platonic, it's very hard, like, because we just don't prioritize that like we prioritize family or love, romantic love. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. I think it's quite different for the guys, because there's, in the story itself, there's this part where a girl opens up to her boyfriend that she was raped by someone, and then a couple of days later, this particular guy in question who raped her tags in a tweet, and then he just replies casually. Because I think to guys, it's just, we can relate. We might not be seeing eye to eye on a certain matter, but we can still see eye to eye on another matter. And I feel for a lady, I don't know, I'm just speaking from a guy's point of view, because I think male friendships, from what we've seen, last longer than women. I don't know why it's like that, or why it often ends up like that. But guys last longer than women when it comes to friendship. So I think it's my personality. I don't know, any other guy in this group probably has a different opinion, but this is from what I've seen over the years. A fallacious statement. Mokut said, okay, I'm open. After now, we can take up the argument, but I'm saying from my standpoint, did you get? All right. Mokut, you can speak now.
Thank you very much, Nabas. Thank you very much, Mama. So I have more of a comment than a question, and it's like, I just want to express my gratitude to you for writing on depression, expressing how depression can be fueled by our mothers, because I've been there, and I was there at a period where I was too young to understand why I was depressed from constant body shaming and stuff. And you also, like, you talked about it so perfectly that it rhymed so well. I was so scared. At some point I was like, what is this? Do you have like a two-way mirror? It was so in tune with how I had grown up, where I was constantly reminded. Mind you, I was not a fat child growing up. I was constantly reminded about how I would be so fat, and it was so scary because it was only my food that was portioned in the house, which was really some type of way. And you also talked about absolutism, where because of that, I failed to see when I became someone who was also doing the same thing to another person, because I was so focused on how these affected me so much that I failed to see that I was also doing the same thing to other people in different ways. And thank you very much for writing about that, because genuinely, it's really hard to express to another person that these are real things. You get to, it was comforting seeing that, okay, maybe you're not alone with certain thoughts. And I also want to thank you for writing about lying and how sometimes we as individuals, it's like certain people struggle with like telling lies because they think they are protecting whoever they are lying to, or like hiding certain truths from. I'm really glad you wrote on that. Again, like I said, certain thoughts you had this thought and am I being heard?
Yeah, you vanished for like the last 10 seconds. But
oh, okay, you wrote lying and like, withholding certain truths from people because you feel as though you're trying to protect them from the truth, because like we're human beings, we don't necessarily handle truths very well. And I really want to thank you for writing on that, because I know that this has been a point I have held on to for a very long time, whereas like most of my friends don't believe that you should like lie. Well, I'm not a liar, but I used to tell lies sometimes. Anyways, and lastly, I want to thank you for writing on female friendships and how volatile it could get, and how like people just live your life and you struggle with that because I don't know, it's like it's really hard. And that was a healing point for me. And this might sound really simpy, but it truly was a healing point for me. It helped me to go over like a certain barrier, that a certain like point of like lack of healing I was holding on to, and I was able to heal fully. Thank you very much, and thank you for deciding to pick up a pen to write. Like you have saved many women like me, and I really truly appreciate that. Thank you for existing. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. This means so much. Thank you. I'm really glad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mokut. Even though you won't thank me, no problem. Thank you, Mokut. Thank you for everything you said, Mokut. Right, Divine, can we hear from you? And then Blessing.
Okay, hello, good evening. I'm really excited to listen to you because this book was a very, very interesting read. This was the second time reading it, and I just loved it. So many bookmarks, and I like how it just seemed to touch very different aspects of life, religion, friendships, depression, and all that. I really, really loved the book. And I wanted to ask, do you have anything? Are you writing anything presently? Should we look forward to something? That's just what I wanted to say.
I am working on my novel, but I need a lot of prayers because it's taken me longer than I anticipated. But yes, I'm working on my novel.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
And she does have an anthology, Woman Eats Me Whole, I think.
Yes.
It's in Nigeria at the moment. No, it's not.
It's not in Nigeria. No. I don't think so. It's not even in Ghana. It's run out of stock in Ghana.
Oh, okay. Right. Hope Blessing would speak, and then Mesoma. Okay, we'll end with Mesoma.
Oh my god, I'm excited. I'm nervous at the same time, but I just wanted to say that I love how articulate you are, like the way you speak, and your voice is so soothing. Like I don't know, I could listen to you speak all day. Honestly, I love your voice.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Blessing.
Thank you, Blessing. And Mesoma can speak. Hello, Mesoma, can you hear me? No.
Thank you so much, Ama, for gracing us with your presence. And I wanted to ask, your voice, like all of us have said, is very, 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 very sweet to listen to. So I wanted to ask, did you school? No, where did you school? Yeah, and what did you study? That's what I wanted to know.
Mesoma, I like the sound of your name because it sounds like it sounds a little bit like a Fanti word in Ghana. But please do tell me what your name means, if you don't mind.
I'm already blushing. Thank you so much. It's actually Mesoma Chukwu, and it means the good things the Lord has done.
Ah, how beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Your question was sorry, I completely forgot your question. I think it has something to do about what did I study? Where did I school? right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Ghana. I did all my education from nursery till university in Ghana. I only did my master's in Chicago 5 years ago. But I was born and raised in Ghana. I do get a lot of questions about my accent or the way I speak. And I like to answer that it's a colonial deficit. And that's just a way of trying to wiggle my way out of answering, because the reality is that I don't know why I sound this way. But I would chalk it up to my parents. My father is also a writer, although he's never published. And my mother is also an artist. But in every home that we lived in, we always had like a library inside the house. Like we always had lots of books. And so I was nurtured as a reader very early, like as a young girl, as a little girl, I was nurtured as a reader. And as a kid, I asked too many questions, like all kids. And I think one of the ways in which my dad tried to get me to keep quiet or to stop asking him questions is that he would ask me to read out loud. And in reading out loud, because a lot of the books I was reading were not entirely African, I was trying to imitate, like for instance, if I'm reading a book and it's based in Texas, I'm like, how does a Texas person sound? If I'm reading a book and it's based in Australia, I would try to imagine, of course, not having any experience whatsoever, what these people actually sounded like. So I think in the pursuit of trying to live out the worlds that I was reading, I began to sound like this. So yeah, I think that's why. But yeah, I was born and raised in Ghana, from nursery to primary to secondary school, all here in Ghana. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really what I wanted to know, and I will follow you and pick accent from every book I read.
Thank you. It's almost 10, and we
Thank you. Barnabas, I don't think we can hear you, or at least I can't hear you.
Thank you, Santi. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. It's
Am I audible?
It's better.
Okay, so I was just thanking you for your time and for to come with us. We really appreciate it. And we promise for it, and because we started late, that's right, it's 10 already. So I think at this point we've come to the end of this session, and it was very, very rich and so insightful. Okay, there's noise in my... I don't know where I am. It's quite very quiet. I think it's network. I'm sorry about that. Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
I'm basically just saying that, okay, I'm at the end of this session, and thank you very much for joining us this night. Sometime in the near future, we'd love to have you again. Maybe this time in person, whenever you're in Nigeria. Would appreciate and would love that. Thank you so much, Asantewa.
You're very welcome. And yes, I hope to make it to Nigeria soon. And yes, when the book comes out next month in Nigeria, please spread the word about it so the Nigerians can also know about it. Thank you so much that this platform exists. And yeah, I'm so excited to have been here. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Do have a wonderful night, Asantewa. Thank you so much. You can log
You
on
too.
now.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a lovely week.
Don't forget to hit the follow button and tap on the notification icon to stay updated. That's all for today's episode. To join our book club or stay updated on future discussions, follow us on Instagram and X at Jollof Book Club, Jollof with a double F. And thank you so much for listening.